Hey, my name is Sarah, and welcome back to another episode of Talking Fast. No, Jacob did not grow hair. I have a different guest today, guest co-host. I'm actually auditioning for a new co-host.
Oh, are you? Okay,
curious.
Let's see if I make the cut.
We'll see if Jacob actually listens to this and if he actually hears
Jacob,
that.
you're out.
You're out, actually. But we have Ricky Liorti here. Thank you so much for coming on. I feel like we've
thanks
been
for
trying to
having
make
me.
this happen for a very long time. And the catalyst for why Ricky is here, we're going to talk all about relationships, relationship advice, and heartbreak, because you just wrote a book, Heartbreak Love. Why don't you tell the audience to get us started? Because you're the professional here. You're the one and it's basically saying your resume here, because then we'll get into the relationship advice later. How did this come to be, and what inspired you to write Heartbreak Love?
Yeah, of course. And thanks for having me. You're right. It's been a while since we've started chatting about coming on, and I love what you do. Your presence and everything online is great. I think I was following your whole Olympic journey. I think I was messaging you every day, but by the way, I love this. Keep all the behind the scenes stuff. I'm a big Olympic guy.
I appreciate it.
But the book, it started just as a bunch of random thoughts. I journal a lot. I suffered from depression in 2016, 17-ish. And one of the big things my therapist told me was make sure you write everything down. Not dear diary, today I felt good, today I felt bad, but just write down the things that make you feel something. So if you're having a good day, why was it a good day? What made the day good? What made it bad? Just start writing everything down. And I journaled consistently since then, not in a diary or anything, but just random pieces of paper. I have the gratitude journal, and I think it's great, but it's repetitive. Same thing. I'm grateful for the same 3 things every single day. Yeah, every single day. And then earlier this year, I met somebody who, and I'd been single for over 4.5 years. And I met someone this year that really turned my life upside down in the best possible way. And it was amazing. While it obviously came to an end and it was a big heartbreak for me, it was still an amazing experience. And I found myself journaling throughout this entire process when I first met her, and how full of love I was. And then when we broke up, all the emotions that dealt with heartbreak, and then kind of moving past that and learning to love myself again. It's tough. And I started doing these quotes on TikTok, and someone's like, you should write a book. And none of the quotes were mine at the time. I was just kind of speaking random things into existence. And then I was like, you know what if I took all my thoughts and all my words and all these things and I transformed them into poems? And they're not haikus, roses are red, violets are blue kind of thing.
Exactly.
But they're my, most intimate and vulnerable moments turned into poems about the journey through love. So the idea is that people can see and read my emotions and my vulnerability and say, hey, you know what? If he can be vulnerable and he can open up, maybe I can too. So it's called Heartbreak Love Guided Poetry Journal, and that's what it's meant to be, a guided poetry journal. So it's ideally meant to walk you through these stages of love and to let you know you're not alone, and hopefully this can be your companion through each stage.
I feel like this all kind of happened quickly too, because you only announced the book deal in the summer, right? So has this just been your blood, sweat, and tears for the past few months then?
So when I originally came up with the idea for it, I might have had 50 to 60 thoughts that I liked throughout, because I was already in the middle of the breakup at that point. So I had about 60 at the time, and I looked at them and I said, okay, how do I transform these? And I'm a big fan of Rupi Kaur, obviously. I feel like every Canadian our age is roughly a fan. R.H. Sin is another one, and he fought, we're friends now. We talk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Off air, I'm going to show you the voice note he sent me. I saved it because it was the nicest voice note ever, and he's one of the 2 inspirations behind the book. Which is really, really cool. So cool. So I took the 50 or 60 I had, I kind of transformed them into, poetry. And I said, okay, what if I just wrote 1 or 2 a day? And I wrote 3 to 4 a day. I was originally planning on doing it within 4 months, launching it in the new year for Valentine's Day. That was the goal. Yeah. And then once you started writing, you just realized that it was so therapeutic for me. Some days I would write 10. And because they're different phases of love, it wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about falling in love. And one day I wrote, I think 8 or 10 just about falling in love, because I was in the feeling. I remembered it. So I wrote it a lot quicker. I think from start to finish, including the original 60 I had, it took me 2.5, 3 months.
Oh my God.
So I submitted it to my publisher. She obviously fixes it and edits it, makes it a little bit nicer. But the nice thing about poetry is that there's no proper grammar. There were certain things that she changed. I'm like, no, I don't want it to be read like that. Yeah, it doesn't hit the same. I want this word on this line on its own. And she's like, okay, yeah, it's a form of art, so you can do whatever.
Yeah, because it's imperfent, almost like going through this.
It's so it's been a crazy journey. The whole start to finish was maybe 5 months from when I agreed to do this, really focused on it, to we launched about, I don't know when this is going to be released, but we launched October 22nd. And it was amazing. I was on CP24, which is cool. I've tried to get on CP24 for other things, never got on it, but I went on that for this. And, we had the book reading, and that was, I've read it so many times and I've always been able to properly articulate my words and my thoughts. When I sat up there in front of, 80-ish, 90-ish people, some of them I knew, some of them I didn't, I froze at a couple points because I was brought into the moment of writing them. So I'm in my own head thinking about like, holy crap, like I'm feeling the emotions of when I was writing them, but I'm in a completely different setting now. So it was really cool and interesting. I hope I did a good job for those people that were there. I hope they appreciated and enjoyed it. But yeah.
Was it therapeutic, the process for you then?
So much.
Like,
that's why, like, originally I was only planning on writing 1 or 2 a day. That was the goal.
Yeah.
When I got to the office, instead of doing my gratitude journal, I was going to write 1 or 2 thoughts. And then, I could transform them at the end of the week, sit down. Or originally I was planning on working with my editor to put them into poetry because I'm not really a poet. But the more I was writing, the more I was reading poetry. And then I kind of figured out how to just write these thoughts in the form of poems. So yeah, I started just writing them. And every day I found myself writing 5 to 6. Like originally I had 320. So I've narrowed it down to about 210, which is
still an absurd amount of poetry to write in 3 months.
Do you know what the hardest part was? There's only so many words for searching for love.
That's true.
Like, or wanting love.
Thesaurus.com.
Yeah, basically that's like, I think I use a couple funny words that I would never normally use in my vocabulary, but you can only say searching so many times without it sounding too repetitive. But yeah, so a lot of the poems I ended up cutting out, I read now and I'm like, wow, I really like that. Why'd I cut that?
Yeah.
And there's a couple in here that I read now, I'm like, I don't like that one at all anymore, right? I'm like, why did
I feel like if it represents like the phases too, it's like if you're also in like a different phase of your life, like reflecting on it as well.
Well, some of them, I guess they hit differently when I originally submitted it. Because I gave myself, once I started writing, I said, okay, by this date I want to be done. Or else I'll just never be done. I'll just keep changing it, keep trying to perfect it. Let's set a goal. This day I'm done. I'm submitting it. And then we can cut a couple. But I think I submitted 225 and we cut it to 210 maybe.
Oh, wow. So you cut most of them.
Yeah, so we were originally 320-ish, then I cut it down to 225, and then I think from there we cut it to 210.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy. Like even now that I read them, like some of them, like I can't believe I like came up with that. That's so good. And then there's others where I'm like, hey, they don't hit as hard anymore.
What was it like when you physically like held the book for the first time? Because I feel like that's like, there's something to be said about having something like physical. Like, we're both like content creators and our lives live in the ether that is just like the internet, which is like great, but like having something physical is so different. Like what was it like the first time you like held it for the first time?
So it's funny enough, my coordinator actually got a video of me the first time I got it. So my publisher came by, we had just finished recording a podcast and she's like, Ricky, I've got the book. And from the moment I got the book to the launch, I think we only had a few weeks. So I had to really go through it with a fine tooth comb, like just make sure I had everything the way I wanted it. So the first time I held it, I just stood there and I looked at it. I was like, holy crap. Because even the artwork, everything was my idea. I'm like, I wanted it black. I wanted it hardcover. I didn't want it glossy. I wanted the heart to be kind of resemble a real heart, but also like kind of look like somebody drew it. Like almost like, not I drew it, but that. Everything's in lowercase except for a couple words. Once you go through the program, the only thing that's capitalized is one, like referring to a person, the one. But yeah, when I held it, it was just so surreal because January of 2024, I had no intention on writing a book.
Have you heard from the person who like a lot of this is obviously like inspired by?
Yeah, we're on fairly good terms. Like we're not, obviously
Was that part weird though?
I think the weirdest part about that is that I wrote majority of this when we weren't even talking, like no contact. And then now you read them and you're almost transformed back into that stage, like especially the second chapter about being in love. And I read some of them and I'm brought back to that time of this year where you're like, holy crap, I was so head over heels in love. So it's obviously tough. It's tough because even the heartbreak section, sometimes I read those and I'm like, crap, like I'm not over my ex. Like you read that and then, you're like, holy crap.
I feel like that would be very difficult because you're like, I mean, I don't know what stage necessarily of like heartbreak you were in when you wrote this, but if this was only like earlier this year, like that's not that long ago. And then like having to decipher in your brain going like, oh, am I like writing this because I still feel this, or is it because something I felt before? I feel like that would be like a little bit difficult because you're like constantly bringing yourself back into those old emotions.
Yeah. So when I originally wrote it, so in the last year, I basically experienced every stage of love. So I consider them the stage of wanting to find love, like being hopeless romantic, thinking your person's out there. And sometimes you don't think your person's out there. So chapter 1 reminds you that they are. It is going to happen. You're going to find your person. Chapter 2 is about being in love and, that stage of, honeymoon love where you're just so head over heels and you're so happy you found the one. And while that it doesn't resonate as much currently because I'm not, head over heels in love. It's something to remind ourselves that when we're in a good relationship, appreciate what you have because, not a long time ago, you were wishing for this, or
exactly.
When you were heartbroken, you were dying to be back in love. Chapter 3 is obviously about heartbreak, and that's a big one. That it pulls at the most heartstrings.
For sure.
And then the last one's the most important. It's learning to love yourself. When we're in heartbreak and you're defeated and you're so filled with emptiness, it's tough to remind yourself that, hey, you're still you still got something, you're still an amazing person, you're gonna get through this. And there's so many times where we forget it because we feel worthless, we feel that we're not enough, we feel that there's no hope left. Hey, remember, you got this. Like every challenge you've ever been through in your entire life, you've made it past. No matter how hard it was or how much you didn't think you were gonna, you made it. So that chapter is just to remind ourselves of those things, that you don't need anybody else. You got this.
I love that. Like a holistic look at love and heartbreak and everything.
That's right. It's a full journey. I call it a full journey through it. And lately, the more I've been talking about it, I say it's more like your companion through love.
I love that. So then it's like, you don't have to be experiencing heartbreak to read this, or like you don't have to be like, you could probably like, you meet a happy, healthy relationship, then also like be able to appreciate all the stages of it.
And so, like, I've told some of my friends who are in relationships, I was like, look, this might not apply to you sometimes, but read the second chapter, go through it. This isn't meant to be read start to finish
but that's the beautiful part about like poetry like that. Like I think of like my Rupi Kaur books, and it's like you just go and you read like maybe it's pages. Like or like a passage that like you really loved and one that you like remember and just for that moment. So like if that applies to everybody, that I love that.
And for me the biggest thing is I wanted it to look nice on a coffee table. So like now that I see it, like and when I see it, the only thing I don't like is when you get like a fingerprint, you can almost see it, but
that's the quality is good though.
I love it. I'm so happy with the way it looks.
So good.
And we're actually going to be starting, so we did the launch, and that was like a book reading, essentially Q&A and a book reading. And I said, how do I keep this going? I want to keep engaging with my audience because I love this whole social media thing I'm doing right now. I want to keep working with the book because it means so much to me, and I think it can really help people. So we're going to be doing guided journaling experiences where we get a group of people together. Obviously I'll read some poems from the book. We'll talk about why it resonates with me. Maybe everyone can read some of their own favorites, talk about why it resonates with them, but then we can also share our own experiences, write down whether you're in a happy relationship. Okay, what are some of your thoughts about happy relationship? What do you cherish so much about these moments? Or maybe you're learning to love yourself again. What do you do to love yourself? How are you coping with that loss of a breakup or whatever it is? So I'm still in the works on kind of finalizing it, but the first one will probably be in Toronto some point this year.
I love that. I love that because like journaling, I feel like, just because my friends, I had 3 friends buy me journals for my birthday this year before I was going to the Olympics, because they were all like, they're like, we need you to like live in the moment and write. But I actually struggle with it because I struggle with like where to start. So I love the idea of like guided journaling. That's not like the 5-minute journal or like any of those ones that kind of feel like it's like commercialized journaling, which is like a little too like I think it's a practice you have to learn.
Yeah,
I feel like.
It's not. Journaling is something that people think there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. The right way is just to start. My journal entries, if you can call them, at the beginning were just scribbled notes on a little notepad I would keep in my back pocket. And sometimes they didn't even make sense. Sometimes they weren't sentences. They were just words written over and over. Like the word perseverance is a word that I used to write over and over, and I still spell it wrong sometimes, which is mind-blowing.
I don't even think I could spell perseverance.
Yeah, like motivation was another one. Happiness, contentment. They were just things that I wrote when I was at my darkest and deepest places. So I think people just need to start. So that's what this is. Ideally, it's when people are in their feels and they're going through something, or maybe they're not going through something, they just don't feel and they're just hopeless. Pick this up, write down a couple thoughts, read my thoughts and my vulnerability, know that, hey, like I'm suffering too. Like this isn't easy. It's not always sunshine and roses, and hopefully it can help a couple people on their journey through love.
Did you go back and read any of your old journals to inspire stuff in this book?
Oh yeah.
Like everything?
Not everything, but like I keep a lot of my old,
Yeah.
because a lot of them are my workbooks too. So my work drawer, I have like a whole bunch of my old workbooks.
Oh, true.
So sometimes I go and just flip through them. I'm like, October 19th, 2019. I'm like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I had a bad day. Okay. Noted. But yeah, even some of the originals, and what I was originally wanted to do, I wanted to like rip out some of the pages. So when people got the first copies, whoever pre-ordered, we're going to get like original notes.
Oh, wow.
I didn't end up doing it because I didn't have enough, and I kind of wanted to keep some of them. And I didn't
like
want to start ripping apart all my books.
I feel like that's something also good to like keep for yourself, because you are someone that shares like so much, which I love about you. Like I feel like the reason I relate to you a lot is because like we are both people that do 9 million things. Like some people might know you as Ricky from the Pals podcast, but then other people might know you as Pickleball Ricky, and then some people now are going to know you as poet. Yeah. So I think
I'm also a published foot model. Shockingly, yes.
Really? Like
and recently
legitimately?
hand model as well,
Really?
actually.
Oh, dang. I could
Yeah,
never do that.
published
My
hand model
cuticles are
and
so
published
bad.
foot model.
Oh, dang. And a model. See?
Yeah. No,
It's
not
like,
real model.
it's
Foot,
still a
feet
model.
and hands. Feet and
Just
hands.
cross out the first
Yeah,
part. It's still
that's
model
it.
at the end of it. But with that, so what people might not know if they've like never met you before is that you also share a lot of like relationship advice and quotes and everything on TikTok specifically, but also on Instagram. Have you ever found that makes being in relationships difficult? Because I feel like women specifically get a lot of hate if they share their relationships online as an influencer. So I was just curious if like you've ever felt that on the other side.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
in the best way
That makes
to
me feel a little bit better. That's
the-
not just women that deal with
No, the best way to describe it is that a lot of, so now I've created this online character, which is me, but it's also a little bit of a character. You know, we talk about dating, and not every story's happened to me exactly to me the way it's told, right? Sometimes it is a little bit of a show. So sometimes there are exaggerated truths or stories that I've heard from friends. And sometimes I'll say, hey, I heard this story from a friend.
Of course.
But I remember one time, this would have been 2 years ago, I went on a date with a girl. We had an amazing date, had an amazing time. Next day we were talking. 2 days later we're not talking. I'm like, did I do something? And then I'm like going through my TikToks, and I had posted something about talking about a different date from like months ago.
Oh, and she thought it was about her?
Well, I don't know if she thought it was about her or if she just thought that it was, you know, because I said, you know, hey, a couple months ago I went on a date and X, Y, and Z happened. So maybe she just thought that I was dating 2 or 3 people at the same time or what it was. And I don't think about that because I do a lot of my content in 1 or 2 days, and I
Yeah, you
save
don't
it
live
for
in
the
your
week.
car, actually. You just...
Yeah, I don't actually live in my car wearing golf shirts every day. So sometimes you do 3, like if I got good lighting, I'm going to do 4 or 5, and I write them all down, and I know exactly kind of what I want to say. So I think she was very turned off by that. But
That's
again,
so
it happens. And,
interesting.
you know, even me and my ex, we used to talk about it. We said, you know, like at what point do we hard launch? Because that's a big thing, and, you know, making it public, especially because I do social media and she kind of does as well, or she definitely does as well. So we said, you know, when we're comfortable, we'll both hard launch. But even a couple of her, I guess, fans started commenting on my post and be like, oh, like, you know, where is she? Why aren't you guys together? Oh, she's in this. Where are you? Blah, blah, blah. And it was really funny because some people put 2 and 2 together. But no, it hasn't hindered my relationships, but definitely hasn't helped. You would think people are like, oh, you're that dating guy on TikTok. You must get so many dates from TikTok. It's like, no, it actually doesn't really work like that.
No.
Majority of my following's in the States too. So.
Yeah, classic. That's what I was curious about too, for like your experience with like hard launching, soft launching. I feel like that's like such social media like lingo and everything.
It's huge right now.
And like, so my experience, like I've been in a relationship for 8.5 years. Early on, I used to
low key flex.
Not a low key flex. It's just we met in university, and so I used to, when it was the pandemic, share a lot because I had no other people in my life. It was the only person I was with all the time, and I think it was before I really, as I'm sure you've realize like the impact of parasocial relationships and people being really invested in your life and every little thing and holding on to everything that you say. So we made the active decision just over a year ago to like take the relationship offline. With that, I then deal with questions every single day of my life, asking where he is.
Why isn't he here? Why are you posting? Did you guys break up?
For sure. So like it's weird because I did the inverse. Like I have friends that like either they got out of relationships and they're like, oh, I'm never putting one online again, or they only like soft launch, so they'll never hard launch. Whereas I had a full blown like everything was online, and then now I'm like retreating, which is like just because I wish I had never ever put it online. So I'm curious like what you would do in your next relationship. Would you do full hard launch? Would you like wait to see how it works? Would you just do like how much do you think you would end up sharing? Just because you're so open. So I'm just curious.
I think it depends on how comfortable my partner is.
Yeah.
Like I always joke, if my partner hated social media, I could delete it tomorrow and I'd be okay with that. Like, you know, I'm okay just living on a beach somewhere down south and just chilling with my partner and my family.
Playing
and, you know,
pickleball.
Maybe our kids and playing pickleball. This whole social media thing's been amazing, but it was never my intention to start like that.
Okay, I feel the exact same way.
Yeah, I had a couple TikToks go viral early on during the pandemic and during other stages, and then I found my niche fairly easily because I was a single guy navigating the dating world. So I started talking about dating and relationships and love, and here we are. 3 years later, I ended up writing a book about love. So. I could delete social media tomorrow, but if I had someone that was cool with it, like these trends right now that are going around, all these couple
the
trends,
lifting.
You have no idea how jealous. So do you know Jed and Jade?
Yeah.
I hate them so much, but I low key love them.
They're the perfect social media. Granted, I don't know them personally. I'm an admirer from afar.
I didn't know that either of them. I DM'd him one day. I was like, yo, love your guys' content. I'd love to have both you guys on the podcast, right? Like I think you guys have cool stories. I think you're the cutest couple. It is. I hate how cute they are in real life too.
They're like the exact same.
They're not like, they are the perfect
That makes me
freaking
so
couple.
happy though.
I hate them. Jen and Jade, if you guys are watching this, I hate you guys. You are too. I literally commented on one of their posts and I'm like, I hate you. How cute.
Actually, do you know what? I definitely saw that.
Yeah.
They're like, and then when they do like the spinning around and everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No, they're adorable.
They're adorable. So I would love to do trends like that. But even just like random little things, like with my ex that I dated before COVID, like if anytime she was in the shower, because she never locked doors in the shower and you could hear the shower, I would sneakily go in there and she always faced the shower and I would just scare the crap out of her. But like, I mean, this was like a weekly occurrence to the point where I've got 100 videos of her just scared to death. Like stuff like that, I think is really so fun and relatable that I would love to share. But yeah, it all depends on my partner. For me, I'm easy. I could not share anything. I could share everything. I'm very chill, or I could just delete it and disappear and you guys will never see me ever again. Who knows?
I always say that too. Like if I ever just disappear off the internet one day, maybe I won the lottery,
Don't be shocked,
but no one will ever be know.
Don't be shocked if I just disappear
such,
one day.
It's such a healthy way to look at it though, because like it is fleeting. We know, I just like live in a world where I know this is not going to last forever. So it's like enjoy it while you can, write the book while you can, and do all of that. I love
it is tough, yeah, because again, what's the content space going to look like in 5 years? Nobody knows.
No, well, I mean, like TikTok wasn't around.
5
Well,
years
it
ago.
was, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like no one's making money off it. You're right. It's like really like crazy to think of.
And I feel like every 6 months you get a new like TikTok or social media star that's born. Like, you know, last year was the
100%.
Alex Earls of the world.
I know.
This year is I don't know who.
It's crazy when you see like people that are like maybe that you follow now and they're like, oh, I only started posting in 2022. I'm like, what? And then they're just like everywhere. It's crazy like how quick to like start someone could rise. We get this question a lot. I specifically do. What is your favorite place for a first date?
I'm gonna give
favorite thing to do for a first date?
Oh, okay. So my favorite thing to do, I like long dates.
Okay.
Like, I don't ever think I'm going to go on a first date for coffee ever in a million years. I will not. I think it's the worst first date.
That feels like a
ever.
networking meeting. My friends all do it, and I'm like, that feels like networking. I hate that.
So I've said this. I just made a TikTok about it. I think first dates should be long, and I think they should always have the possibility of being the best first date of your life. Because if that relationship works out, how nice would it be to know that you had the best first date of your life? So I'll use my ex as an example. When she didn't live here, so when she came here, I planned a full like weekend itinerary from the moment she arrived to the moment she left. We were jam packed with everything. We had alone time to sit and chat and get to know each other. We went out for dinner and drinks. We went to trivia. We did a sporting event. We did a concert. We went to a workout class. I believe that you should be doing whatever it is that you love the most and whatever that person loves the most, so you could potentially have the best night ever. So now it's like dinner, drinks, concert, and a night out is something that I really love doing. I love concerts. I love sporting events. You know, I think, you know, drinking sometimes it could ease the edge if people get nervous. I don't tend to get nervous on dates because if I'm here, hey, it's just like showing up to work. It's just showing up to chat with your friends. I don't think there's a reason to be nervous. But yeah, I think you should plan whatever your first date is. Make sure it has the possibility to be the best first date ever.
I love that mentality because I feel like it's the opposite. Like everyone assumes a first date is going to be bad, so it's just like switching the mindset of like assuming that it can be like wonderful and great.
If you have the mindset that this date's not going to be good, don't go on it. And if you're not 100%, don't go on it. And people give me so much crap all the time because I'll bail. If I'm not 100% me, I'll bail. I'll be like, hey, you know, Samantha, I'm not feeling 100% today. I would love to go on a date. Please, let's reschedule. This isn't about you. I had a rough day. I don't want to introduce you, especially as a first impression, to a lesser version of myself. I want you to meet me as like the person I am and 100% of me, because if you're going to meet this lesser version of me, one, I'm doing you a disservice. I'm wasting your time. And two, I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm wasting my own time. Yeah. Let me get back to 100%. Let me go to the gym. Let me get a good night's sleep. Whatever it is that I need to do to get back to me. Because if you introduce yourself to someone as a lesser version of yourself, then that's what they're going to expect.
I love that because it's also like with intentional dating that way then you're like being very intentional about the way that you're presenting yourself at the beginning. Because I hate when people like are like, oh, I have to go on this date or have this like mentality of almost like they're too cool for it, which I hear so often from friends. And I'm like, don't you like want to be dating to like then want to find someone? I don't understand. Like that just does not compute. And look, I'm not the one to give dating advice in 2024. I'm so sorry, but it's just like will never compute to me.
I've been on like after I was with my my ex. I was single for like 2 years and like whatever, I dated for a little bit. And then after about 2 years, I was like, okay, let me actually start dating again.
Like
actually
intentionally. Because there's a difference between the two.
Yeah, and I was in my low 30s. I'm in my mid 30s now, unfortunately. But I was in my low 30s. I was like, hey, I should start dating with purpose. And I started doing that. And I went on a lot of dates because it's like, hey, that's how you find you just gotta, it's a numbers game. The more dates you go on, the better chance you have of finding your person. So I went on them and I didn't. And then I kind of, took a break. I met my ex and whatever. Even this summer, I'm not really dating because it's hard. I'm like, I'm not mentally and my availability is not there. I'm just, I'm busy with the book. I'm busy with the podcast. I'm busy with my content. If I meet someone, it's a different story. But why am I going to go and introduce someone where it's like, I can only hang out with you once every 2 weeks?
For sure.
No, if I meet you and I want to spend time with you, like, I don't want to have to put my personal things aside to try and make this relationship work. I'd rather, hey, you know what? I like meeting you. This was fun. Let's try and make this work. But hey, also need to understand that I come first. Like I strongly believe that everybody should be a little bit selfish, especially when it comes to their time and their emotions and their feelings. If you're not being selfish and you're putting other people first, especially at the beginning of a relationship, who takes care of you during that time? So
you give great advice. So after this little break, we are going to talk about dating advice other people have given and see if we agree with it or not.
All right. I love it.
On our broadcast channel, and by ours, I mean my broadcast channel, if you didn't know, I have one called POV or All My Close Friends, and you can come and chat, and we always ask for questions. And this time I said, does anyone have dating and relationship advice? So what I want to do is go through this and see if we agree with the relationship advice.
Let's do it. I love this.
This first one says, never change yourself for someone else. Remember your worth. I guess those are kind of two. Agree?
100% agree. If you're going to change yourself for someone else, it's like, you're going to wear a mask. Eventually it gets tiring.
Yeah. And I feel like I think you can only wear a mask for like so long. I see a lot of people do it. It's usually around people can wear a mask for like a year, but then it feels like it starts to really
they say there's
down.
that 3-month rule where people can only be different. Like their true colors come out after 3 months. I don't know if that's true or not, but what we should talk about if it's a man or woman giving the advice too.
This is all women.
I was going to say that one for sure. I knew it was a woman.
My audience is 91% women.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the girlies.
I thought
the
mine
girlies
was,
and the gays.
Yeah. I thought mine was good. Mine's 81%.
91.
Women. And
then the only other 9% is because I work in sports. I'm convinced it's the only reason I have the other 9.
Love that.
Okay. The person is able to be friends with your friends.
Oh, I love that.
It says it's important they're able to be friends with your friends.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like super important, or like I personally am, look, I've only ever dated friends, so like also that's like my own fault, but it's like I've only ever been with people that integrated easily into a friend group, and I've seen it with girlfriends who have dated people that it makes it so much easier when they integrate. But do you think it has to be? Like, what if they just don't have the same interests? Do you think they have to be friends with your friends?
I don't think they have to, but I think it's a huge bonus if they do. There's nothing better than, going on group dates or all hanging out together, the guys and the girls, and everyone's just having fun together. And I strongly believe my next partner, within the first 3 dates, will meet my friends.
I love
because
that.
your friends are a good judge of character as well. And sometimes you just want to know. Like with my recent ex, I think our first date, I brought her out to the bar to meet a bunch of my friends.
I don't know what, 3 of my best girlfriends all got into relationships in January or February of this past year. And all of them brought the guy to like date 2 or 3 was meeting all of us. And it's just continued that way. And
did you guys get along?
Of course. The one guy came to our New Year's party and we walk inside. I go, Steve, what's your favorite Taylor Swift song? This is important to me. He goes, turn on the Tiny Desk concert. And we turned on Tiny Desk, NPR Tiny Desk of Taylor Swift after midnight. And that's what we watched.
Okay.
So it's like, that's
a win.
That's a win.
He knew he did his homework.
He knew exactly what he was doing. Your partner chooses you each day and you can't take that for granted.
Ooh, I like that.
Are you someone that believes that it's a choice every single day to be in a relationship? I agree.
And I think it's important to make that effort every single day. Mm-hmm. I think the problem with a lot of relationships is people get complacent or they maybe are just content with where they are. Mm-hmm. I believe that, at least from a male's perspective, buy random flowers. Mm-hmm. With my ex, I used to send her flowers. So she was like, I woke up, I feel tired. I'm like, perfect. DoorDash flowers, done. Mm-hmm. And like, especially how cheap flowers are. Any men listening, I know it's mostly women. Women, tell your boyfriends, tell your partners, flowers literally cost like $25. A bouquet of roses or tulips or something. Easy. $25, free shipping, free delivery. There's no reason your man shouldn't be showing up with flowers once a month. I'm so sorry. I'm planning date nights too. Or
only doing flowers when it's trouble. An occasion. Yeah. In trouble or an occasion.
A random freaking Tuesday, guys. Come on. Expect more.
This is going to be one of those clips where every girl is like, put this on his For You page, not mine. Oh, I think this one's super important. Don't compare your relationship/partner with ones on social media.
Wow. Yeah. 100% agree too.
I feel like with like everything being on our phone and having such easy access to everything a lot of the time. And I used to see with my girlfriends all the time, they'll even to this day go, well, I saw someone on TikTok tell me this, but I'm like, that's your For You page can curate your own anxieties. So it's like your For You page, if you're anxious about something in your relationship and you're looking things up, or then your entire For You page is it's not a sign from the universe. It's like your For You page is curated by your own anxiety. So,
and you're feeding into it.
You're feeding into your own delusions. It's how people end up on like, just like tunnel vision on one topic. And you can literally on the internet find anything to
that supports
that.
anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let me ask you, have you ever compared your relationship to others? You've been in an 8-year relationship, so your relationship predates TikTok,
for sure,
Reels, virality, and everything.
So this was the only thing that was really difficult for me, was even in my own life, I was so private in my relationship. I just felt like it was like, I'm a very extroverted, outgoing person, but I always felt like that was just for me and him, and I felt like that was really important. But then once I started like on the internet, I felt like I had to share that part. And then that's the one regret I have with social media, is like I kind of gave up a little bit about that part. Because I mean, relationships get clicks, and it's really easy to like, boyfriend does my voiceover, like one of my most viewed videos, stuff like that. It's like, it's just the reality of it. And I had to then really go, okay, what's more worth it to you? Like your stress and anxiety of people all being in your business, or a couple more clicks or whatever. And then it started weirding me out when brands would ask him to be in brand deals, when I'm like, he's not a creator, like that's bizarre. So there was like a few things that happened. We had someone literally follow him home. Yeah. So like there was enough things that happened that I was like, I need my privacy back. And once I got my privacy back, I stopped comparing my relationship online. Because I feel like you do it more when you're doing it for content. It's the same with like you make a video and you compare it to somebody else's video. Once I went offline with it again, I stopped that like whole comparison of how things should be feeling and how I should be acting online, because I didn't have the comparable anymore.
It's so tough, like especially for people like us. We do content, and like you said, relationship content slaps. Everyone loves it, and
it's difficult when it's like your life, because you don't want to feel inauthentic with it, but it's like you can still be authentic and not share it.
I was having a slow year. So in February, I launched like my Loverboy series, and it went mega viral. Gained a whole bunch of followers. Then a couple months later, I was like not growing at all. I started dating my now ex, and so many people are like, Ricky, this is exactly what your content needed. Like post. Yeah. And my ex is beautiful. She does social media. Yeah. We could have gone viral, like Jed and Jay.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
But we said, like, hey, no, like this is my life, this is your life. Commenting and, close friends stories and stuff is different. But we said, like, hey, until this is 100%, we know this is going to work. Let's just work on us instead of trying to prove to everybody else that we're this amazingly cute couple. So.
It's kind of like I always think back to like high school and Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And it was always the people that you knew were in the worst relationships had like the longest captions and posted the most. And I've always thought about that my entire like dating life. And so I've had less stress and less comparison once I took it offline. It doesn't mean that I'll never like share stuff again. It just means that like
you're not sharing everything.
It will never be the central part. It never really was a central part of the content, but it just I've taken such a step back that it I don't know. I just would never.
There are some couples that do really well with it too.
For sure.
And like Jed and Jade are the perfect example. Exactly. When I had them on, I even asked them, I'm like, hey guys, is your relationship online is always perfect? Is it really this perfect in real life? And they said, no, we obviously fight, but the way we fight, we know we're in this together. We know we're in it together to the end. Yeah. So we know we're not breaking up. When we fight, it's nice to know that, hey, okay, you be mad, I'll be mad. Let's talk in a couple hours so we can make up and finish our TV show that we're watching this week or whatever.
This piece of advice says, set standards from the beginning.
Ooh.
I feel like this also, a big one we got was communication, which like, I mean, like you mentioned therapy before, like we talk on this podcast about therapy a lot. And I feel like that's just the core of any relationship, whether it's romantic or not, is communication. 100%. And I'm guilty of it. Like I'll tell my girlfriends when they're complaining about something like, well, did you tell him you feel this way? And they'll be like, well, no.
But he should know.
But he should know.
Give me a break.
You can't. Like people are not mind readers.
I remember, this is like maybe a decade ago, but one of my exes wanted me to do something that I didn't want to do. And she communicated that it meant a lot to her. So I said, I'm going to do it. But then she got mad at me because I didn't want to do it. I was just doing it for her. And I was like, what? You wanted me to do this. I'm doing this because you wanted me to, but now it's not good because you want me to want, like,
yeah.
What? Like, that won't work for me. I'm just not like, I'm doing it because of you, not because I wanted. That should be a better one.
That's also a basic like thing. Like, do I think that like Nolan wanted to drive to Party City at 8 a.m. on Saturday to get balloons with me for my Halloween party? Absolutely not.
But did he?
Yeah, of course.
And there you
but
go.
it's like, I couldn't imagine getting mad over being like, but you don't really want to be here. Like that's.
No, but setting boundaries is important because, again, it aligns with communication.
Exactly.
And there are times where I've crossed lines and I've crossed boundaries that I shouldn't have. And it's, sometimes in the heat of the moment, it's hard to know. But if you communicate clearly your wants, your needs, what your boundaries are, what you need in a relationship for it to be healthy and to be happy, then there's no reason it can't work.
And I think the more you talk about things, like that's the only way that you're also going to know if this partner is fit for you. Like I'll never understand when people don't want to bring up something because they're afraid the person will get mad or they'll leave or something. I said, and then if they do, then that's not your person.
It's as simple as that.
As simple as
do it
that.
at the beginning. Like
100%.
I went on, so I'll tell a story too. About 2 years ago, I went on this date, beautiful lady, stunning. She's a mother of a young lady, a young daughter. We went on a date. She told me right off the bat she had a kid. I was like, cool. Like that doesn't change to me. We had the best time. We went on date number 2 and she's like, okay, like I need to know where this is going. I'm like, well, I'm not the type to rush into things. Let's see where this goes. She's like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. I have very tight timelines. I have a daughter. I want someone to be, a father figure, like if this isn't going to move really fast, like I by the end of the year, I want to be living with someone. I was like, that's too fast for me. Like I'll be straight up honest. We had a great night. We parted ways. She met another guy. Within 6 months, they were living together. They're still together, and they're a really cute couple.
Yeah.
Not for me. I wasn't for her. Nothing wrong with that.
But it's better that you have that conversation then like
3 months later.
And then you're like, oh, wait,
Shit,
we should
I'm
have
like,
talked about this. Oh, in 3 months now you want to be moving in? Exactly. I just feel like my friend Jade always has this advice, and there's this like, I want to say it's New York Times or something. It's like 32 questions to fall in love or whatever. That thing. Have you ever heard about this?
No.
Might be 34. It's something in the 30s to fall in love. And she used to do it on like almost every date she went on.
Okay.
And it's like basically the idea is if the date's going well, like she would sit down and like do these questions. You go back and forth. And it's the questions that should make you fall in love with the person. She did it with her ex and like they ended up dating for like years. And it's
I need
just
to look in. What's it called?
I think it's 32 questions to fall in love. Someone can like quote me. I'll try and like send it to you after. But it's just like everything as basic as like what was your favorite birthday as a child to then like really deep stuff about like where do you see your life in 5 years. Like it just slowly builds into the later stuff. And I even think if you're in a relationship, it's like a really cool and important thing to do
100%.
just as a check-in. But I just love that she does that from the beginning. She's like, she owns her own business. She's an entrepreneur. She's like, I'm not wasting my time. I'm going to do these questions. And if like we get along on most of them, then great.
Perfect.
Then we'll
keep
continue
going.
to move on.
I think I love asking questions. So on every date, and one, it's the easiest way to have a good date.
Yeah.
Just ask questions. Like, especially as a man, like I love talking. When I go on dates, I try to talk less and just ask questions. Like starts off with the basic BS ones. What are your favorite hobbies? Okay, do you like sports? Do you like the basic ones? But then get into it. Like one of my favorite questions to ask on a date or just in general in life is what's one of the happiest moments of your life?
I love that.
And you can watch people think about it and you can watch like the twinkle in their eye form and they'll be like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, hey, there's a moment right now in your mind. What is it? They're like, oh, I don't know if that's the happiest. Like, that's the one that came when I asked you the question. And someone once told me like how her dad bought her like a Polly Pocket set when she was 6, and it was like the most wholesome. And her dad passed, and I was like, that's a wholesome ass moment.
Yeah, and now you know that much more.
Well, yeah, and you see what's truly valuable to them. It's not like, oh, when I bought my first like Gucci bag or something, or when I when I got a promotion at a job. It's like, no, it's like a fucking Polly Pocket set from your dad when you were 6. Like,
it shows the values right away as well.
Yeah, I love asking questions, and obviously you can't ask what's one of the hardest things that's ever happened to you within 5 minutes of a date, but after 4 or 5 drinks, 2 or 3 hours of good discussion, like, I'll dive into it. Like, hey, what's like the toughest thing you faced in your life? What was one of the worst days of your life? Like, let's get into this. What would your parents be really proud of you? Like,
I love that.
So
what is because we just like read off some piece of advice that other people had. What would leave us off with your number one piece of dating advice for anyone out there that's trying to find love?
I got 2 actually. So the first one is more of like a personal one for people. It's don't introduce yourself to a person that, if you can't maintain that, don't introduce yourself a lesser version of someone else. Always be true to yourself. If you are, I hate saying this, if you're crazy, fucking be crazy.
Yeah.
If you are a lot, be a lot. If you are, a shy introvert, then be that. Don't change who you are to try and please someone else, because if you're constantly wearing a mask, it's going to get tough. That's not really dating advice. That's more like just
life advice.
Yeah, person. Yeah. And then my best dating advice, I'd probably say, don't waste your time and don't waste anybody else's. If it's not working, and don't try and make it work if it's not. If it's working, then stick with it and really focus on it. But again, don't try and put a round peg in a square hole. Find your person. If it's your person, then fight through it and make it work. If it's not, then move on, let it go.
I love that. I feel like people have gotten so many pieces of advice from this episode. Thank you so much for coming on. This
Sarah,
was
thank
so
you for
good.
having me. This was nice. I got to get you on my podcast.
This was so good. Yeah, I'd love to be on the Pals. Tell everyone where they can find you and where they can find your book.
So my socials are Your Pal Rick, exactly how it's spelt. My book is called Heartbreak Love, Guided Poetry Journal. It's available wherever you buy your books. Indigo, Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, Chapters.
That must be so cool walking into an Indigo
So
and
yeah,
seeing your book.
they're not in the stores yet. They come in. Well, maybe by the time this is released, they'll be out. But
that's
yeah,
cool.
It is really cool. I'm not going to lie.
Film yourself like reacting to being in like an Indigo too.
Oh, yeah,
That's
I will. 100% I will. Sarah, thanks for having me. This was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all of those things. Rate us 5 stars. I feel like I haven't asked you guys to do that in a very long time. We have new episodes out every single Wednesday. I've been Sarah. That's been Ricky. Who knows if Jacob's ever going to return? We'll see you next week. Bye.